kinds. Those that know there's a war on their family and those that have not yet received the memo. If you have a family, there's a war going on. Whether you know it or don't know it. You may think that things are going quite well because there's nothing like the bliss of family and the glow of friendship. Don't you like that? What greater proof do you need of the existence of God? A loving God, a good God, a generous God, a kind God, than your pleasant family and friends. That's a reminder that God is on the throne. Don't you appreciate your sharing relationships? Anybody got a friend? Lift your hand and say, I got one. If you got one, lift your hand and just say, I got one. No, you don't have 50. No, you don't. No, you don't. You may have 40 acquaintances. You may have 30 people that know you and you know them. But if you've got 10 real friends, you should consider yourself far above the national average. Yeah, those kind of friendships are the sweet nectar of fellowship. Somebody you can do with, the doing together, the going together, the sharing together. It's good to know you got somebody on your side. Lord, I don't feel nobody on my side right now. Something to look forward to. Someone to comfort you. That's what you do with your friend. That's what you do with your family. Somebody who can defend you even when you are wrong and you get wrong sometimes. Somebody that will love you no matter what, unconditionally. The treasure of your life is your friends and your family. Without your friends and family, your life would be impoverished. And you like having those kinds of relationships. And they are so great. They're so enriching. They're so gladly protected and treasured. And you want them to last forever until something goes wrong. And I did say until something goes wrong because I've got good news and bad news. Yeah, I told you every now and then about the two pilots, and the one said, well, my buddy is flying his first plane in the Air Force, and his friend said, that's good news. I said, no, it's bad news, because while he was flying, the motor stalled and the plane started to sink 38,000 feet in the air. His friend said, that's bad news. He said, no, that's good news. There was an eject button and he had a parachute on his back. So he could always eject from a plane that was falling. His friend said, that's good news. He said, no, that's bad news, because when he hit the eject button and the parachute went up, the ripcord malfunctioned and the parachute wouldn't open. So he's falling through space without a parachute. And his friend said, that's bad news. He said, no, there's good news. There was a haystack right where he was going to fall. And his friend said, that's good news. He said, no, it was a pitchfork sticking up out of the haystack. And it goes on and on and on because, well, let me tell you the real news. If you've got some bad news, there's some good news coming. But if you've got the good news in your family, I got some bad news. A war has already been declared on your household. If you've got a healthy friendship, Lord, help me up here. No matter how solid, no matter how fragrant, no matter how united, no matter how close, no matter how spiritual, no matter how productive, no matter how insulated it may be, the bad news is you've got a battle coming because the thief comes to steal, kill, and and destroyed, but I got good news. I say good news. You're in a war that's worth fighting because you're in a war that you can win. This is a war I got to win. Somebody say, I gotta win it. He made a mistake. David made a big mistake. He never should have messed with those Amalekites. In chapter 27, David went down and slaughtered the Amalekites. He should have left them alone. But David was acting like a double agent. He was a Jew, but he joined the Philistines. The Philistines were the number one enemy of Israel. David had chopped off the head of Goliath, the Philistine. But when Saul put out an all-points bulletin and said, wanted, dead or alive, David in his rush said, I want to join the Philistines. And the Philistine king Achaz said, I'll give you the town of Ziklag. And after David had slaughtered Amalekites, the Amalekites said, as soon as we get a chance, we're going to get even with him. He took our family, we're going to take his family. Took our cattle, we're going to take his cattle. He destroyed our neighborhood, we're going to destroy his neighborhood. He may say, Israelite lives matter. Well, let me show you how much Amalekite lives matter. He thinks that black lives are important. Let us show him that blue lives are important. If he thinks he's going to get by with this, it ain't over. And so the Amalekites said, we are going to destroy his family. And may I tell you, there's a spirit of war on every family. Old families, now I'm almost to finish, y'all. New families, large families, small families. That's why I wanted you to meet with your tribe, because you need to find the reality. You are a part of some family. I know there were problems. I know there were problems. When I was a child, I was so different than all the rest of them. There's a large family, and most of them were goody-goodies most of the time. I had so many problems, I was named the black sheep. I wore it as a badge of honor. Had so many problems in school, so many problems with the law, problems with the neighborhood, problems with my girlfriends, problems with my buddies, problems on the bus, problems on my job. Till my father said, do you think you'll ever grow out of these problems? And I said, I don't know. I didn't think I had problems, but I did. So they said, oh, well, Lemuel, he must have been the one they put in the shoebox and left on the stoop. I said, that's me. Then they said, well, maybe he was adopted and the rest of them were live births. I said, that's me. He may look like a preacher on the outside, but he's got problems on the inside. All I want to tell you is, whether you think you're adopted, left on a shoe stump, you may be the black sheep, the white sheep, the mulatto sheep, the mestizo sheep, the old sheep, the young sheep. I want to tell you there's a war to cause you to be a sheep that is slaughtered, but the good news is you can win this war. They're gone. My daughters are gone. My sons are gone. My wife is gone. My house is gone. Not only mine, but everybody in Ziklag. And that word Ziklag is an interesting but obscure term. It comes from the word Ziklag, which really means stress. Like when you press an olive and the oil comes out. Or when you press a grape and the juice comes out. Or you put heat to the iron and the metal comes out. It means stress, the town that is stressed, the town that's under pressure. And what that name was became their legacy. The town was overcome by battle, by arrows, by spears, by fire. And when David got that thing, he cried. He wasn't just crying because his family had been taken captive. Everybody's family. I wish you would tell the person here, everybody got family trouble. How many of y'all been married 70 years? You got family problems. How many of y'all been single 70 years? You got more problems. How many of y'all been together 50 years? You got problems. You can't fool me. I already know. I live in Kansas City. How many of y'all have been together 5 years? How many of y'all are shacking? Don't raise your hand. You got problems. How many of y'all homemongering? You got problems. How many of y'all are perverts? You got problems. How many of y'all are criminals, fugitives on the run? You got problems. How many of y'all are straight arrows, goody two shoes? No matter what your family is like, man that is born of a woman. He's up in a few days and they're full of trouble. Everybody said my family is gone. And then they begin to cry. And they cried until they couldn't cry anymore. The warriors were crying. The farmers were crying. The police were crying. The firemen were crying. Can y'all hear me? The bankers were crying. The coaches were crying. Hey, Linus, the lawyers, they cry all the time. The lawyers were crying. Doctors and nurses were crying. Even the priests and the preachers were crying. They cried until they had no more strength to cry. And I gotta bring it all in now because my time is up, but I just now feel like preaching. But there'll be another time. What don't y'all say? There'll be another time, Pastor. But before you go to the other time, let me just tell you, there's some things that are worth crying about. If there is somebody in your family whose mind is chaotic, if there's somebody in your family who's sick and can't get well, I don't know if y'all hear me or not. If there's somebody in your family with an eating disorder, too much or too little. If there's somebody in your family, that's prone to antisocial behavior. If it's somebody in your family who's a Democrat, yeah, I said it, a Democrat. If it's somebody in your family who's a Republican, yeah, I said it, Donald Trump, a Republican. If it's somebody in your family that's independent, it doesn't matter. With your Baptist self, you got trouble. With your Methodist self, you got trouble. With your Catholic self, you got problems. With your Apostolic self, you got problems. With your Lutheran self, you got problems. With your Pentecostal self, you got problems. With your COGIC self, you got problems. But nobody ought to have a problem they don't mind crying about. I cried and I cried. I want to know, have you ever cried about the problems in your family? Say yes. But I want to tell you that your tears of sadness can be turned into tears of joy. Because David said, I might have got it wrong the first time, but I won't get it wrong the second time. I fought the Amalekites on my own. I ran from Saul on my own. I got into the court case on my own. I went into combat how? On my own. I lost my family on my own. I lost my wife. I wanted somebody who help me finish. seeking the Lord. Don't know about the economy, but I'm seeking the Lord. Cancer in my body, but I'm seeking the Lord. Interest rates are fluctuating, but I'm seeking the Lord. I'm not getting younger, I'm getting older, but I'm seeking the Lord. And I heard, get me out of here now. And I heard the Bible say, if you call on him, he will answer and show you great and mighty things that you know not of. And the Lord said, it's your time. Tell your neighbor, pick your weapon up. Tell your neighbor, pick your weapon up. Hey, touch your neighbor on the shoulder. Say, hey neighbor, pick your weapon up. Everybody stand, everybody stand.